Thank you for tuning in to Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid. In Season 2 of Hacks and Hobbies, we're visited by our amazing guests coming from all walks of life who want to learn their story, their struggles, and their journey on how they got to where they are today. So stick around. In this episode, I speak with Del Shaffer. He's a host to the League's podcast on iTunes. He's also a father, a husband, a realtor, and he's voted one of the best realtor in Mount Pleasant. Now, how did I connect with Del? Well, Del and I are both huge fans of Gary Vaynerchuk. And when Gary said, who wants to be who should I call? Or there was some conversation going on. We all posted, and I think Del had a really awesome message, and he got tons of likes. And I was like, Del, why don't you come on, be a guest on my podcast? And here we are now with Del Shaffer as a guest on Hacks and Hobbies. Thanks so much, Del, for coming on.
Hey, Junaid, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So, the one thing that I love talking about on the podcast and really exploring is how my guests got to where they are today. And we all have individual stories. We all go through a different path, and we all have very unique ways of how we engage our mindset and engage with the community and engage with people around us and what we are doing with our life and the types of support we're providing to our communities. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started and how you got here.
Oh, gee. It's a long, winding story, but it's pretty amazing. Grew up on a barrier island in Charleston. It's called Isle of Palms. Really amazing place to grow up. And then just one of three kids, and then ended up thinking that I wanted to go into the military. So I went to the Citadel, which is a military college here in Charleston, and then decided later that the military was for me, that I didn't want to, I guess, be told, what to do all the time, where to go. And actually became a Christian at the Citadel as well. So I kind of felt a calling more towards going to different countries and sharing the gospel, mainly after hearing about a guy named Jim Elliot, who was a missionary that was killed in Ecuador. I got to hear his wife speak. But fast forward a little bit, went to 10 countries doing mission work and also playing soccer.
Wow.
I did not make it to the professional level playing soccer. I made it. I tried out for the Charlotte Eagles, but I found a way to combine some of my passions together and was able to go travel different countries and teach, soccer camps with kids and also work with churches overseas. And so fast forward even more, came back and settled down here in Charleston, and then got back into real estate, which I had done for 1 year in marketing, and found out that it wasn't all about money, that I was able to really help people. I guess everyone needs a roof over their head. So I was amazed at the fulfillment of that when I was able to help families and, couples and singles, whoever, find a house and have somewhere, to live and do whatever they need to do, work or have families.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And everybody needs a place to live. So yeah, it totally makes sense, and there's a ton of realtors provide a very important service, especially for new couples and new families moving from one place to another place. It's very, very helpful to speak with a realtor that knows the area and that knows where the best schools are. And sure, technology gives you a lot of that data, but having a personal connection for somebody who knows the area is absolutely important to help you find your home.
And so I kind of use this as my sort of like ministry now. This is a way of me providing value and helping others, through a different type of kind of service. And I want to be different than other realtors. I
Yeah.
try to answer the phone as soon as people call and
Hmm.
not, slack on that. And I learned a lot from Gary Vee, like we said, and
Yeah.
was able to meet him here when he spoke. And I was amazed at his personality, his
Hmm.
just being able to talk to you one on one, and he really does want to help you, even though he talks to millions of people.
Yeah. I mean, he's a very authentic, very genuine um, personality. I mean, and he knows it. He's like, you don't need to have any BS in the middle.
Right.
Everything is plain. People have access to information. So there's no point in faking it. There's no point in pretending to be somebody who you're not.
And I'm just amazed at his story as well, that
Yeah.
he was not great as a student, but
Hmm.
that doesn't necessarily mean that he's not smart and intelligent. And I asked him a question about real estate, and he right away had an answer. And he was just, you could tell he was listening and that he cared. And you
Yeah,
don't always get that with everybody. A lot of times people are listening to reply, not necessarily listening to help.
absolutely. You're absolutely right. And so you came back, you traveled around the world, you played some soccer. How did you or how did you develop the passion for soccer as a sport? Was it was it you being brought up playing soccer, or there's something different?
Yeah, I think growing up playing soccer here and playing club soccer, my high school was like one of the number one teams in the country in the United States,
Mhm.
called Wando. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, I never made the varsity team.
Oh,
But
okay.
fast forward, still had the passion for the game. And I think part of that goes from a love of other countries and going to, wherever I went, whether it be Costa Rica or China or
Mhm.
Cambodia, I
Mhm.
was always able to like have a soccer ball and play with people. It was
Yeah,
amazing. It's
yeah.
just one of those games that is very just rudimentary, and all you need is a
Mhm.
ball, and you can put down shirts and have goals. I mean, it's amazing.
Exactly. It's an international sport played the world around. It's really amazing.
And it's unfortunate here, kind of in the States, it's kind of become,
Mhm.
more of a like a pay to play type game,
Yeah.
which is
Which is
sad. And
which
I was
is really
listening
sad.
to someone talk about that today, where
Mhm.
in the States, we're kind of missing out on talent because we're not helping other kids, whether it be inner city or Latino kids, and we're not finding that talent. Like they're going to play for Mexico, possibly.
Yeah. So when you say it's a pay to play sport here in the United States, how do you explain that? Because that's really interesting.
Well, what they say is it's become more of like a upper class sport here.
Mhm.
It costs a lot of money for kids to play club soccer, to get the lessons or the practices, and
Mhm.
pay for a coach and travel. And if you want to be really good, you're going to be traveling to tournaments. Like my younger brother played a lot, and we traveled with him all over the
Mhm.
Southeast. He
Mhm.
went, I think, to Oklahoma for nationals one year. And so a lot of the other kids, if they don't have the money, they can't necessarily afford to make it to the next level.
Wow.
Whereas
That's really
overseas, they're
Mhm.
playing in the streets. Here in the
Yeah.
States, the kids play, it's very structured. They don't
Yeah.
play pickup soccer, in the park or as much here as they do
Mhm.
overseas.
No, that makes a really good point because I remember growing up in Saudi Arabia, right? And they had a huge um they have a huge fan for soccer or football, right? And we'd play in our courtyard at school with a piece of can. We didn't have a soccer ball, so we'd play during recess, and then after school we would play in a next to our home. There was a big uh, dirt area with some goals on either side. There's no grass because it's a desert, but we'd play like no matter where we are, you can set up a goal and you just start playing. You just kick around the ball. I mean, it's the cheapest cheapest ever game that you can imagine, because all you need is just one ball. You
Right.
don't need cleats, you don't need shin guards, you don't need any of that stuff. You just need a ball to go and play.
I made 2 trips to Cambodia. It's
Mm-hmm.
called Siem Reap. So it's not the capital. Capital is Phnom Penh. But I
Mm-hmm.
went to Siem Reap, where the one of the wonders of the world, Angkor Wat, is.
Yeah.
And then I remember playing in a field, and not like like a cut grass field,
Yeah.
but it was a field, and there was a bike path through the middle of it. And so
Yeah.
kids were leaving school, and there was kids on bikes in the middle of the game, and they were
Yeah.
getting hit with the soccer ball. And there was even a cow in the middle of the field. It's crazy. The
Yeah.
places that I've played, and you make it happen and you enjoy it. It doesn't really matter.
Wow. That's really cool because yeah, man. It totally makes sense because we do, we had our son enrolled because I have 3 kids. So the middle one, he's 4 years old. So we had to, sign him up for soccer classes. And we go to this big Nike field, and there's these goals, and there's all these people coming here on a daily basis or a weekly basis, and they have these training practices going on. And yeah, man, there's definitely a cost involved. Every kid's bringing in number 3 ball. They gotta have their cleats. They gotta have their shin guards, and people on the sidelines are super super serious of what's going on.
Right.
They're watching their kids, and they're like, "Oh, move out of my way because I can't see my son play." And it's really interesting. Like, I'm just standing here. You can move over, but it's really interesting how what you mentioned really makes sense from the behavior I've seen of people around me.
And also you have parents that are really pushing, and in sports in general, they want their kids to get a scholarship. Even when they're little, they're like, oh, this is our way, little Jimmy get us a scholarship.
Yeah.
But I was a former coach, and a couple of things that I
Hmm.
learned from that side is when I
Yeah.
went through some of my licensing, is they taught us that you coach kids, and then when it comes to the game, you need to buy yourself one of those, pop-up chairs and sit
Yeah.
down,
Yeah.
because you're done with your coaching. They're not going to listen to you during the
Yeah.
game as much because they're into it on the field. And
Hmm.
so don't let them the whole game and try and coach them then. It's too late.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then another thing, I guess, from the other side is, the parents. And so also with the playing, one thing I would do at practice is, I think it was the last 30 minutes of every practice, would let
Hmm.
them just play. Because
Yeah.
sometimes, like I said, it's too structured. They're missing the creativity, the
The fun of
originality
it.
to try.
Hmm.
Yeah. And to enjoy it. It's like, do
Yeah.
all these drills. No, just
Yeah.
let them play sometimes.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And you make a really good point. You gotta, and that's what our coach does too. The first 30 minutes, they're telling them, okay, do these drills. They're dribbling, they're going fast, they're going slow, they're stopping, they're doing the touch the ball with toes. And then they would, the last 30 minutes, they would let them play. And since they're younger kids, they are, running, and every time the ball goes out of bounds, they'll throw in another ball, like, all right, go play with this.
Yeah.
And then the next level up, I saw the other teams, they're teaching them, okay, this is how you throw the ball in from the boundary. This is how you send it in. So it's really interesting watching them play. So, wow.
And speaking of kids, I was actually having this conversation with my wife. We have
Hmm.
2 kids,
Yeah.
and our 3.5-year-old started at daycare. They have
Yeah.
a program called Soccer Shots.
Hmm.
So she started it too. But I think that soccer is better for kids to learn teamwork rather than, say, baseball, even though a lot of Americans would, if you talk about baseball, they get really offended. But um, soccer is, you have 11 players on a
Yeah.
team, and
Yeah.
you have to pass the ball, and it's 11 people working together. And
Yeah.
so if you say, look at baseball, it's one person batting at a time, or, one person pitching.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily you have to throw it to somebody or you have to hit it to somebody.
Yeah.
A lot of people are sitting on the bench, but I think that soccer, that's one of the things that kind of pushes soccer to be like the best sport around the world. And along with being able to play wherever and not have I played all the time where you just have 2 t-shirts and a soccer ball. But
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
that's why I love the sport, and why I started the podcast, is because I needed to have an avenue to talk about it. And also I get to interview cool people and talk to players and coaches, all over the world.
No, that's really, really cool. And the other thing that I like about, like, the thing you mentioned, right? It builds teamwork. You got to pass the ball, and you got 22 people on the field playing with one ball.
Right.
22 people, as opposed to, if you look at basketball, max you could 10 people can play that game. You can throw in more games, but then that court is small. And with American football, you've got to have all this other gear, because now you're pushing and you shove in, and you have flag football. And interesting thing that you mentioned about baseball being a team sport, but it's team sport, and when you've got to catch the ball, but it's more like 2 people are playing the game, or 3 people.
Right. It's like one-on-one pitcher against a batter sort of thing. And I think soccer is going to continue to grow here in the States. As you see, like the second division here in the States, we have a team here in Charleston, but that league just expanded, and I can't even remember how many teams there are now, but the Major League Soccer as well, they just added a new team this week to Sacramento that will start in 2022, and St. Louis and Nashville will have a team. So they're at 29 teams now.
Wow.
And I think football will kind of start to trail away. You look at Atlanta Falcons, they don't have a ton of fans at their games. They're not good this season, but Atlanta United plays tonight, and they pack out the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It's taken over.
And then if you also look at the medical issues with American football, you have the concussion issues, you have those kind of things, because people are getting like really hurt. Whereas in soccer, the maximum you're going to get hurt is you're getting hit by a soccer ball.
Actually, there is some concussion issues in soccer now, because if sometimes people go full on, for a header, and they don't look at the player, they just look at the ball.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to introduce new like legislation where you can have an extra sub. So if someone has to go through concussion protocol, they can take them off and actually substitute them.
Yeah.
It doesn't count as one of their 3. That way, if they can go back in, fine. But there's a player from that's on ESPN. He's a former player. His name's Taylor Twellman, and he's pushing for new legislation because he's seen people, just go straight back into the game. And later they're complaining, that they have issues and they have to come out.
That's really interesting.
Just to be honest, we still struggle. I wish we didn't, but
yeah,
head to head can be difficult. And one last thing I was talking about with the team, the soccer thing, it's also, you mentioned 22 players. Part of the issue with soccer as well is I think you learn about how you treat other people, like the other team. If you're gonna, kick somebody with your cleat, or it's kind of how are you going to play the game? How are you going to treat the other team as well? Before the game, after, during. Yeah. So there's a lot of, you can learn there from kids, and what they can learn as well themselves about treating other people and being fair and not being dirty.
Exactly. No, the really, really good points. Soccer is definitely one of the sports I played growing up, and some of the things that I'm able to do with the ball, and my older son's like, "How'd you do that? How'd you kick it up? Like, just by standing there?" And like, yeah, you could do a lot of different things with the ball and your feet. You just gotta pay attention and play around with the ball.
Yep.
And
another thing too is I didn't know this, but when I got into real estate, I didn't think how soccer and real estate would work together. But I would go to soccer games, or I was part of a group here, a Manchester United group in Charleston, and me just being myself, I would people that I knew through soccer would want me to help them with real estate.
Yeah.
So I learned that I can be a realtor just by being myself, and it automatically comes up because they ask about how it's going.
Exactly.
So that way people are just, going out and being themselves, and you can get business just by being who you are. And so that's a cool, benefit of being a realtor and loving soccer as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Some of the things that people do, right? The things that we do in our life that make us who we are, they spill over into the industries, like, being a realtor or being a plumber or being something that you do with your hands or something that you do with your mind, right? It relates, and getting in that connection in that way with people, because they know you have a passion for something, so you build those relationships strong by playing together, or so you're playing soccer, or being in any sports whatsoever. It then builds your essentially building your brand, and then as you provide service and you have those connectivity and be able to provide them a service through finding homes or whatnot. So yeah, it totally plays into and building your personal brand as who you are and the services that you're offering, be able to offer.
And I work super hard for them. I work hard for everybody, but I
Hmm.
know I'm going to see them again as well. And I'm not going to be scared to see them, because I know that I
Exactly.
did an amazing job. And I ask them, oh, you still at the house, and how's everything going?
Yeah, yeah. That follow up, right? That follow up totally makes for a very great relationship over long term.
True, because they say that a lot of times, I think it was maybe 6% of buyers hear from their realtors after closing. And so that was shocking to me. And I wanted to definitely be someone that, keeps in contact and with people after closing, and not just, see ya.
Yeah,
But a lot of
exactly.
times if I'm friends with them before, or if I'm not, I'm like really, really close with people after closing. And so I think
Hmm.
that's another, aspect that I kind of provide. And I take it very personally.
Yeah. No, that's really, really awesome. And a lot of the times, some of the conversations that I've had with marketing and branding your company and branding your entrepreneurship and whatnot, and you bring a really great point, because as long as you are passionate about what you do in your personal life, it's going to spill over and it's going to show through your colors, and you're able to provide that service in your professional life to those same connections and having that relationship, right? There's a ton of customer relationship management tools available. And the best one is being able to just being human with each other and
Right.
talking to people, and getting that point across. This is what I'm about, and this is what I'm able to do.
And it was kind of silly when I started. I was kind of thinking that I was like Jerry Maguire,
Yeah.
just take the small amount of business I have and
Yeah.
work as hard as I could, knowing that, they would refer me to other people. And sometimes I'm scared that I don't want like too much business. It's
Hmm.
because I'm scared that that level would drop and I wouldn't be able to provide the same level, because I'm not a team. It's just me.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And so that's one of my fears, is that I would get too much. And so it's been good so far. I've been able to do an amazing job. And it's funny at the
Nice.
beginning, when you start real estate, you don't know any of the like terminology.
Hmm.
And then slowly as I went along, it's been almost 7 years now. You
Nice.
start talking, you're like, whoa, I know all the lingo, and I know what I'm talking
Hmm.
about. Where at the beginning,
Yeah.
you're kind of sort of, you know, you use what you know and try and pretend like you're more experienced.
Hmm. Yeah. You amaze yourself, right? As you go through time, it's like, oh, I know all of this stuff. This is really cool, and I can help people.
Well, I
Love it.
bounced around through a few other jobs and
Hmm.
industries before, and I'd never really pushed through whatever it is that, like, 1,000 hours or to master kind of your craft.
Yeah.
And so sometimes people get kind of, they hit that wall and they think that they need to do something else. Whereas
Yeah.
sometimes you just need to push through. And once you kind of learn where you feel kind of better experienced and
Hmm.
you know what you're doing, then it becomes easier and you become more confident in what you're doing.
Exactly. And the 10,000 rule, right? It also goes into, like, if you look at schooling, why people go from um, doing a bachelor's to then doing a master's, then doing a PhD, is because they're going deeper and deeper into what that subject, and the 10,000 hours of being a soccer player or being an instrument, playing a guitar it goes to show, how much work you've put in and how you basically mastered, not, I mean, getting to that mastery point, because 10,000 hours is just the uh, average number, but
Right.
like really good musicians, they've spent their entire life, right? It's gone over 100,000 hours of them playing whatever they're so good at. But yeah,
Yeah, I think
absolutely.
that goes with soccer as well.
Mm-hmm.
I would like I'd been playing up until recently when we had our second kid
Yeah.
and I separated my shoulder. But
Mm.
whenever I got out on a soccer field, I felt different. Like I
Mm-hmm.
felt like that was kind of where I belonged and I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
And it felt almost like at home on a soccer field. And
Mm-hmm.
I was able to not stress as much about my daily life. I could just get out there and kick a ball or kick somebody and
Yeah.
kind of de-stress and not bring all that home with me.
Exactly. No, that's really, really good point. Cool, man. This was really cool conversation. Especially talking about soccer and just having this experience just yesterday, and then I think yesterday was the last meet for us, and I think this weekend is, maybe we'll have some more games over the weekends. But it's been pretty good, and I've seen some improvement in my son, and I keep thinking, I need to play with him more in our backyard and spend some more time with the ball. But again, you gotta balance time between what you do with other things and other time. It's pretty interesting how that comes through.
Yeah, let me know if you have any questions about your son, because I definitely learned a few things, from me growing up playing, not learning with both feet, or
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes they don't try different positions; they get stuck in one position.
Hmm.
So
No, absolutely. Cool, man. So I have some questions towards the end of our episode. Um, what is one hobby that you wish you got into?
I would definitely say it would be music. So I
Mm,
never really did music. I've
hmm.
always wanted to. Actually, one of my bucket list items is learning the drums.
Nice.
And when I lived in England for a year, as
Mhm.
a poor person, I took maybe three guitar lessons and then I gave up. But I sing the shower, I play air drums,
Mhm.
and I think, yeah, my bucket list would still be to learn the drums at one point
Nice.
in my future.
Yeah, I never got the disconnected, um, like the disconnected rhythm between your arm, between your arms, between your hands and your feet, right? Because it's really interesting how that comes through. And one of my managers back at one of the companies that I work for, he used to be a drummer, and he's like, this is how you can play the drum. And then he basically tapped on my fingers different with the different beats. And I kind of got it. And I was like, oh, wow, this is pretty cool. I get that sensory feedback and now I
Right.
can replicate it. So it's really neat. Awesome. Next question. What is your favorite movie or TV show?
So the favorite TV show would definitely have to be The Office.
No,
I
yes.
I started off watching the England, the British version,
Yeah.
and loved that. And then they did the American version,
Hmm.
and at first I wasn't so sure, but
Yeah.
we pretty much watch it over and over again on Netflix.
Nice.
And then we just found out that the two girls, Angela and Pam,
Hmm.
the real actresses, started a podcast.
Oh, no
Uh,
way. I'll have
I
to
think
check
it's
it out.
called Office Girls or something.
Okay.
But they're actually going through the episodes from the beginning, kind of talking about them, which is amazing.
Nice. All right. Next question. What movie would you choose if you got to play a character in it?
What movie?
Hmm.
Like if I could be in a remake of a movie?
Yeah.
Um, that's a tough one. I would, just off the top of my head, um, I would probably say 500 Days of Summer.
Nice. I
I was
never got to see that movie, but it's on my list of movies to watch.
I think it was just I really relate to the character in there and his issues with women, and then
Mm,
him also trying to find a career. Like he was working on greeting cards, but he had a degree, I think, in architecture or engineering.
hmm. Yeah.
And so it's a really great movie. And the music on it is great. I really love movies based on music a lot of times. Like Elizabethtown had a great soundtrack, and Garden State.
Yeah,
And
Garden State was really good. I like that movie.
yep. And I actually was in a movie that I didn't mention before. I was an
Oh,
extra in a movie with Cuba Gooding Jr. called Chill Factor.
nice. That's awesome.
It's a horrible movie, but it was fun.
You got to be in one.
And then they filmed The Notebook outside of my apartment, and I got
Nice.
to watch like one day of filming.
That's
And
so cool.
they paid us $50 to come into our building, and I took out the AC unit
Mm-hmm.
and then like pulled up the blinds and painted the outside of the building. So that was cool.
Nice. Nice, nice, nice. All right. Last question. Who is your favorite superhero?
I would have to say Batman. I was kind of thinking through it, and
Mm-hmm.
I got really enthralled with the new Batman movies that came out.
Yeah.
I can't remember who played it. Was it Christian Bale, I guess?
Christian Bale was with the Dark Knight trilogy, and then
Yep.
Ben Affleck with the remake.
Yeah, Christian Bale. And just, I guess that he doesn't necessarily have inhuman powers, but
Mm-hmm.
just, I guess, his story and how he went through the family, losing his parents, and then just how he came out of that. I just love the Batman story above all.
Yeah. No.
It's a little dark, but
It's a
I
little
like
dark. Yeah.
that he, there's something in me that's all about like making things right, justice, and
Mm-hmm.
I guess being a rule follower is part of
Yeah.
it.
Absolutely. No. Great points. Batman is certainly a character to be, looked up at.
He's like one of the people too.
Yeah, exactly. He's one of the people. All right, last question. If you were a board game, what would it be?
If I was a board game. Oh, geez. I don't know what I would be, but
Yeah.
lately I love this game called, it's not a board game, I guess it's a card game. It's
Uh-huh.
called Exploding Kittens.
Oh my God.
And we've played it with our family. If you
Yeah.
haven't seen it, or you can a little bit of it on YouTube, it's hilarious.
Nice.
It's like playing cards and someone is out,
Mhm.
and it's just really funny graphics on the cards and just funny names and stuff.
Nice.
Check
I'll
it
have to
out.
check that game out. But talk about board games. I One of the guests that I spoke with, he said, if I want to be a board game, I want to be the game of soccer.
Oh yeah. That's a board game?
Yeah,
Oh,
there's a board game called soccer.
I didn't know
And
that.
I was like, let me take a look, and I found it. Apparently, there used to be a game, and it's got all these characters that you can put on the board and actually play a game of soccer on the board game. I was
Oh
like,
wow.
that's hilarious.
Well, I guess for me it should be Monopoly, right? Because I'm
Yeah,
in real estate.
exactly.
And so they actually, I think they made a copy of it here. It's like
Mhm.
I think it's called Charlestonopoly.
Oh,
And it
nice.
has certain parts of town like on there maybe. And instead of Park Place, it'll have like King Street, like downtown area.
Nice.
So that's
Very
pretty
cool.
cool.
Very cool. So homework for me is to check out 500 Days of Summer. One of my favorite actors, Jordan
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt is on there. I'm actually staring at his name on Wikipedia, and I'm like, why can't
Zoe
I?
Deschanel.
Zoe Deschanel. She's on the TV show The New Girl, right?
Yes.
Really cool characters, really cool people. Wow, 10 years ago, this movie was released. Amazing.
Yeah, actually,
right.
I think when it came out, I was a missionary in Marseille, France, and so I even watched it in Aix-en-Provence with some French friends and with the subtitles.
Very cool. Very cool. That's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for your time. This was a really awesome chat. We'll definitely keep in touch, and I'll check out your podcast. And so people can find you at Del Shaffer on Twitter, and you've got at Leagues Podcast on Twitter as well for your podcast talking about soccer.
Yep, it's the Leagues World Soccer Podcast, because I cover everything all over the world. Try to, instead of just one league. So
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Del. This is really awesome.
Thank you, Junaid.
All right, take care.
It was awesome.
Yeah. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Hacks and Hobbies. You can find additional information on the guest today on their website, hacksandhobbies.com. Please feel free to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out on upcoming interviews with amazing guests.